Welcome. And the question today from Eli B. Well is, what is the strangest thing that happened to you that you can't logically explain? Hi, this is Derek. I just put the Drama Llama, Fred, back in his llama pen, so that I can do this quick video for you with some of the stuff that Fred found on Reddit earlier today. If this is your first time watching our videos, help me out by watching to the end, and then giving me some feedback in the comment area below. I do respond to every single one, so don't be shy. And if you want more of these videos daily, don't forget to like and subscribe, with notifications turned on for this channel. Oh boy, let's get ready for some drama. D. Rickards answered with, in 1996, I had just dropped out of university and was moving home to my parents' place. My tail was firmly between my legs, I had almost no money and no job prospects. Basically, I was screwed. I had an old Jeep Comanche with all my belongings in the back, and 200 miles to go. I borrowed $20 from a friend for gas and started the trip. I got to a point that was 30 miles from home and was empty. I pulled into a gas station or rest stop, and sort of cried for a minute in my truck. I needed $5 for gas to make it the rest of the way, and had nothing. There was no way I could call my dad and ask for help, he was already so disappointed. After a minute I started searching around my truck for change, anything. I opened the glove box and there were these paper loyalty bucks for a gas station that I never used. It turns out it was the exact gas station that I was stopped at. $4.70 worth of bucks. I found another $2 in change, put $6 in the gas tank, and bought a Coke. I made it home. Fast forward 20 years, I had sorted my crap out and am a lawyer. That gas station hired me as their outside counsel. I got to tell this story to the president of the company. Abel Marrow 87 answered with, as a child visiting my grandma's house, my mom's mom, whenever I left the house, I'd wave next door to Ken, who always sat in the bay window looking out at the sea. They lived right on the coast, off the North Sea in Hartlepool, UK. We'd never really talk, but just a little wave before I went to get into the car. One time, I'm leaving my grand's house, I'm in front of my mom who's stopped at the door to talk to my gran. So I head down the steps and towards the gate. I turn back and see Ken in the window. Big smile as usual, waving at me. I give him a wave back. He stands up, gives me the thumbs up, and wanders towards the back of the room. My mom comes walking down the steps and asks, "Who are you waving at?" I replied, "Ken." To this day, I can remember my mom's face. She just went white, but didn't say anything to me. It was only a few weeks later, when she plucked up the courage to tell me that Ken had died a few days prior to our visit to my grand's. I don't believe in ghosts, but I know I saw him. I can still picture his striped gray sweater with light stripes across it. Him waving and getting up out of his chair. There was no one else in the house, he lived by himself. Brains are weird. I 100% believe you. My cousin's daughter, 4 years old maybe, says she talks to our dead grandpa all the time. One time my cousin caught her singing along to my grandpa's favorite song, giggling and running around the room. She asked her what she was doing and she said, "I'm playing with Tata and he's teaching me a song." She got so spooked because there's no way her daughter could have heard it anywhere, as my cousin doesn't like to listen to it. Because the song reminds her of him, and it makes her sad. It's also an old tango that you have to actively search on the internet to find. There are other things about her kid that are straight up weird, and everyone is convinced she's a medium or something. Beans 375 answered with, I'm too young to remember this, actually. But my mom always tells this story. Apparently when I was younger, like barely able to speak, I was sitting on the floor playing with some toys nonchalantly with my mom, when I just said, when I was in heaven, I met a woman who said you'd be the perfect mommy for me. I apparently held the belief that I was in heaven before being born, and an angel looked at me and chose the mom I went to. My mom asked me to describe the woman, and I apparently described my mom's great-grandmother perfectly. Down to the eye color. I had never met my great-great-grandmother, nor seen a picture of her. Plumhawk answered with, when I was about 12 years old, I went up to Lake Tahoe with my friend, and his parents who had a condo in Incline Village. One day, the two of us are walking to the bowling alley and cross a street in a crosswalk. Right before we get to the curb, a car comes really close to hitting us. All of a sudden, we're both up on the curb, like we were lifted a few feet. We both looked at each other strangely. Did you jump? No, did you? No. We spent the next hour kind of dumbfounded. It didn't feel like a shove or any use of force. We were still in the street. Then we weren't. JNoWay826 answered with, when I was 10 years old, I didn't want to go to school one day. I faked a stomach ache so my grandmother would let me stay home. I've always been a bad liar, so my grandma tried to call my bluff. She told me if I was too sick for school, then she would be scheduling me a doctor's appointment. 3 hours later I was rushed into emergency surgery. My fake illness was actually appendicitis, and it was so inflamed that if I hadn't come in that day, my appendix would have ruptured, potentially killing me. I felt 100% fine that day. Faking sick saved my life. Jones E27 answered with, I once was changing pants in my room before work and took off my belt. After putting on my other pair of pants, I went to put my belt back on, but it was gone. No one else was in the room, and I spent a good 10 minutes looking for it, as I had simply set it on the floor. It's been 10 years, and I've never seen that belt again. Groundhogs Eat Clover answered with, I will never forget witnessing this moment. In my physics gen ed last year, we were split up in groups and working on a lab. A guy at another table let out a yell while extending his arms, and fell headfirst off his chair. The very second in between his yell and hitting the floor, a beeping started going off in the room, followed by the words, an emergency is happening in your building. Please evacuate at the nearest exit. And accompanied by flashing lights. The guy is having a seizure on the floor, so all we're focusing on is getting him help. A campus police officer comes in, and tells us the rest of the science buildings have already evacuated for the fire alarm. Most of us leave to give some space to the people helping the guy. While outside, we're talking amongst ourselves, absolutely baffled by the coinciding events we just witnessed. Did the flashing of the alarm trigger epilepsy? No, because he was already on the floor by the time the lights kicked in. Was there some kind of sensor on him that alerted when his body was experiencing an emergency? No, because it was his first seizure. Just reading it might sound lame, but witnessing it and working out what was happening in real time was just eerie. Eaton Beeve answered with, I'm a firefighter, and we got a call for an overdose around 3 a.m. to a rough part of our district in the middle of winter. Unfortunately, the patient was long gone, and her dealer, or whatever, found her like that, when he dropped some stuff. As we were packing up our stuff, mind you this is an absolutely trashed mobile home. I heard something down the hall that said, lights? I asked my partner if he said anything as it was just him, and cleaning up, he said no. I walked to the far end of the trailer where I heard it, and shined my flashlight. I get a reflection out of the window. They have a small tool shed and it had a flickering light. It piqued my interest, so my partner and I went out there. We heard crying and noticed the door was padlocked. We cut it, and this little 6-year-old girl was in there. She said her mom puts her in there when she gets mad at her. She said she got scared when she heard the sirens, and didn't know what to do. To this day, I have no idea what happened, or where the voice came from, but I'll take the win on it. Edit. A couple people wondering about what happened after, my partner and I took her to the children's hospital closest to us. And we wrote our report and ate chips and a sandwich we took from the lounge while they called a social worker. She was a really sweet girl, the voice was not a little girl voice. I 100% thought it was my partner since it sounded like a guy. Poke Battle Fan answered with, a car going 50 to 60 km/h hit both of my knees in 2008, it was 100% my fault. I wasn't paying attention when I crossed the road. And not only I didn't have any broken bones whatsoever, I didn't even fall. I did flinch quite a lot, though. My knees and leg hurt for about 2 days. But I really can't explain how a car going relatively fast hit me, only got me to have barely more than a couple bruises. Miaja answered with, I once shut my ear in a car door. No idea how, have tried to recreate it, and can't, but my god that hurt. Raw Whited answered with, this one is strange to me because it was so long ago, and I'm convinced I have to be remembering things wrong. I was a young kid at the grocery store, and I saw this toy helicopter, like Hot Wheels sized, that I really wanted for some reason. I, of course, didn't buy it, but the memory of it stuck in my head. A few nights later, I had a dream where I was playing with a helicopter, but I realized it was a dream, and stupid young me thought that if I put it under my pillow, it would still be there when I woke up. After that, I woke up and eagerly checked under the pillow to get it. For some reason, it was right where I left it in the dream. As a kid, I wasn't surprised to find it there, as it all made perfect sense to me then. But years later, I have no clue how the toy helicopter actually got underneath the pillow. Dry shampoo for you answered with. I have a vivid memory of being at the Statue of Liberty as a child. On my dad's shoulders, seeing the skyline of NYC. I remember what we ate for lunch that day, etc. I remember the ferry we took. I've always thought about this memory, and talked about it, but my family denies I ever went to NYC. I didn't go for the first time, until I was 23. But strangely enough, when I went, I remembered everything just how it had been, when I was there with my dad. Astrological Fox answered with. When I was in primary school, like year 1 to 2, in the cafeteria there were all these cups filled with milk every lunch. Red, green, blue. But only one yellow cup. Everyone would fight to get the yellow cup, like it was the Holy Grail, and it had been this way for years. One night, I had a dream that the cafeteria had gotten more yellow cups in. And lo and behold, the next day, hundreds of yellow cups. Randy88 Moss answered with. When I was in college, a drunk dude fell from a 3rd floor balcony, and got up and walked away like it was nothing. Seriously, one of the weirdest and freakish things I've ever seen in my life. Edit. For those asking, University of Southern California circa 2009. And finally, Veriton3 answered with. My dad owned a small garden shop, so I'd stay behind the checkout after school till the shop closed. This was until I saw a tall man wearing all black, like a trench coat, walking past my dad, and smiling at me before going into a staff-only area. I jumped up to stop him, even though I was 7. This back area is filled with new shipments. I turned the corner but nobody is there. There was nowhere he could have gone. I asked my dad to check the CCTV after closing. But it's only shown me jumping up and running out of frame. Weird stuff, never felt comfortable there again. Well, there you have it. A perfectly great question answered by a bunch of fine and honorable citizens. Help support this channel by smashing the like and subscribe buttons. And hit that silly little bell as well to ensure you get the latest videos as they come out. Fred is always finding stuff for me to post regularly. So this is Derek signing off. Thanks for watching. Good grief, it sounds like Fred is out of his pen again. I think he found more drama for me to share with you. See you soon.